The white-hot beam lanced toward the Aurora's edge. Rourke barely had time to shout, "Evasive! Now!" Navarro yanked the controls. The ship rolled hard, the beam grazing her flank in a blinding flash. Warning alarms wailed as panels sparked overhead. "A shield's holding," Celine called, "but they won't take another hit like that." The Predator didn't hesitate. It folded in on itself, then snapped back into motion, cutting impossible corners inside the labyrinth. Every twist brought it closer. Closer. "This thing doesn't care about physics," Navarro muttered. "It's cheating." No, Vera corrected, her voice like iron. "It's using the labyrinth. You're the one fighting the wrong way." Rourke turned to her sharply. "Then tell me the right way." She lifted a long, pale finger toward the walls themselves, the glowing corridors that pulsed faintly with alien rhythm. "They are not boundaries. They are pathways. Move through them, and you will outrun the hunter." Navarro blinked. "Through them? That's solid light. Solid to you. Not to them. It is vesano." Another beam seared past, missing by meters. Heat rippled through the cockpit. Rourke clenched his jaw. "Alcelino, what happens if we match that glow frequency the walls are giving off?" She was already working. "If I'm right, the hull's polarity will align. And maybe, we phase through instead of crashing." Do it!" The Predator shifted position, charging a larger shot. The walls narrowed around them, the corridor funneling them toward a dead end. Celine hit the command. The hull shimmered, and the nose of the Aurora's edge passed through the wall like diving into water. Light swallowed them. For a second, everything was silent, weightless. Then they burst into an entirely different section of the labyrinth. Wide, open space, multiple glowing routes stretching out like a web. The Predator was gone. Navarro exhaled. "We lost it." Vera's eyes remained fixed forward. A no. "You've only made it angry." The Aurora's edge coasted through the vast expanse of intersecting corridors, each strand of the labyrinth humming with alien energy. The space here was less a tunnel and more a network of shimmering paths suspended in black void. Selena kept her eyes on the readings. The energy signatures dropping behind us, but her voice caught. "Something's duplicating." "A duplicating?" Rourke frowned. From the far end of one glowing corridor, the Predator emerged again, but not alone. A second identical vessel slipped in from another strand. Then a third. Navarro swore under his breath. "We're not outrunning one anymore. We're in a nest." The ships moved like wolves, circling, herding them toward the narrowest channels. Their wings flexed like living crystal, each movement releasing faint bursts of light. Vera stepped closer to the viewport, her expression grim. "They've called the swarm. Once they move as one, nothing escapes." Rourke's fingers tightened on the armrest. Then we split them up. Find a weak point." "A no weak point," Vera said flatly. "You break the chain, they form another. You must leave the web entirely before it closes." Celine turned, urgency in her tone. There's a resonance spike ahead, like a heartbeat. If it's a core node, maybe it connects to a different part of the labyrinth, or outside of it." Navarro was already steering toward it, weaving through paths as the Predators closed in. The hum of the corridors deepened, each pulse echoing through the hull. Suddenly, one of the crystalline hunters peeled off and vanished into the wall itself, phasing just as the Aurora's edge had done. Seconds later, it emerged directly in front of them, blocking the route. "Brace!" Rourke barked. Navarro rolled hard, the ship scraping the corridor's edge in a spray of light. Shields flickered, but they slipped past, diving toward the pulsating node. So the Predators accelerated in unison, closing from every direction. Selena's voice trembled. "If that's not an exit, we're trapped." Vera's gaze didn't waver. "Then we make it one." The heartbeat grew louder with every second, deep enough to rattle their ribs. It wasn't just sound. It was inside them, syncing with their own pulse. The Aurora's edge cut through the final stretch of corridor, the Predators closing in from every side. The node loomed ahead, a vast sphere of radiant light suspended in nothing, its surface rippling like liquid metal. Selena's readings spiked. "That's not an energy source. It's biological." Vera nodded slowly. "The heart of the labyrinth. It decides who leaves and who stays." Rourke didn't take his eyes off it. "Then we're asking for permission?" No," Vera said softly. "You're asking to be swallowed." Before Rourke could respond, the lead Predator fired. The beam skimmed past their stern, stripping shields to 30%. The others followed, their fire crisscrossing like a lethal net. Navarro pushed the throttle, engines screaming. "We're not going to make it unless..." The sphere opened. A vertical slit of blinding white appeared, widening into a maw of light. The heartbeat shifted, Faster, urgent, as if calling them in. Selena's hands flew over the controls. It's pulling us. The Aurora's edge lurched forward, dragged by a gravitational force no engine could match. The predators reacted instantly, breaking formation, some trying to block the opening, others circling to cut them off. One hunter phased through the wall ahead of them, materializing directly in the path to the gate. Rourke slammed his hand on the comms. Navarro, I see it. Instead of pulling away, Navarro dove straight at the predator, flipping the ship into a roll. The starboard wing grazed the crystalline hull, sending shards spiraling into the void. The predator spun out, its light dimming. They crossed the threshold. Inside, there was no sense of space, just a glowing mist and a sensation of falling without direction. The heartbeat was deafening now, each pulse vibrating through the ship's frame. Then, silence. The Aurora's edge emerged into a vast chamber of black glass and drifting light orbs. The predators were gone. The corridors of the labyrinth were gone. Celine's voice was barely a whisper. Where are we? Vera turned slowly, her gaze fixed on something rising from the floor, a figure of pure light, humanoid in outline, faceless yet radiating impossible presence. You are in the audience, she said. Choose your words carefully. The labyrinth is listening. The figure of light stood perfectly still. No face, no mouth, no eyes, yet Rourke felt its attention like a weight pressing against his mind. The voice came without sound inside each of them, overlapping their thoughts. Speak. Rourke glanced at Vera. You seem to know the rules here. She gave a slight nod, stepping forward. Safe exit from the labyrinth. The light shifted, its edges warping like heat over asphalt. Heat over asphalt. A passage is not granted. Passage is earned. Navarro muttered. Here we go. Celine frowned. Earned how? The figures agaze swept across them, lingering longer on Rourke. You have trespassed into the web of the wardens. They hunt intruders. You survived because you learned the first rule. Rourke raised an eyebrow. That walls aren't walls? That perception is a weapon. The chamber's black glass floor rippled, showing scenes from their flight through the labyrinth, the predator phasing, the swarm closing, the narrow escape into the heart. But survival is not enough. You carry something not yours. Vera stiffened. It speaks of the relic. The figure turned toward her. The key is older than your stars. You brought it here. Now the labyrinth decides if you are worthy to keep it. From the shadows, something began to rise, a platform studded with shifting shapes, each glowing faintly. Some looked like weapons, others like impossible puzzles. Celine whispered, "It's a test." The light being stepped aside, the platform drifting closer until it hovered inches from them. 3 trials. Pass and you may leave. Fail and you join the labyrinth forever. Navarro shot Rourke a sideways glance. Just what I wanted today. Just what I wanted today. Space homework with a death penalty. Rourke looked at the platform, then at his crew. All right, let's find out what counts as worthy. The first shape split open, revealing a sphere of shifting symbols that pulsed like a heartbeat. The chamber darkened. The trial had begun. The trial had begun. The sphere floated between them, its surface alive with shifting glyphs that never stayed the same for more than a second. Each symbol pulsed in a rhythm slightly out of sync with the chamber's heartbeat. Celine squinted. I'm reading. Nothing. No energy spectrum. No measurable wavelength. It's like it's only pretending to exist. Navarro tilted his head. Great. Our first test is with a magic beach ball. The figure of light spoke in their minds again, the words etched directly into thought. One mind alone will fail. Many minds must think as one. The chamber's floor shifted beneath them, as suddenly each crew member stood on their own small platform, drifting away from the others. A thin beam of light linked each of them to the sphere. Vera's voice was calm, deliberate. It's a mind link. We must synchronize. Rourke scowled. Soru. Synchronize what? Celine's voice broke in, sharper now. The heartbeat. Look, the glyphs' pulses aren't random. They're phasing toward a pattern. And then it hit them. They weren't looking for a single symbol. They were supposed to think the right sequence together at exactly the same time. Navarro grinned dryly. So no pressure. The first glyph stabilized, a spiral of 3 interlocking lines. The beam between them flashed brighter. Rourke felt something alien brush his thoughts, like the labyrinth was sifting through his memories. They focused. Spiral, arc, diamond. The sequence locked, and the sphere shifted to a deep, throbbing blue. Then the pressure hit. An invisible force pushed into their minds, trying to scatter them. Memories twisted, voices overlapped. Rourke saw Navarro's childhood on Mars, Selena's first day at the academy, Vera's war on a world with 2 suns. Selena's voice echoed in their heads. Stay with me. Stay in the sequence. The final glyph appeared. A circle cracked down. The middle. Oh. All four thought it together. The sphere flashed once and dissolved into a stream of light that sank into the floor. The platform slid back together, the light being inclined its head, a gesture that felt almost like respect. A first trial complete. Rourke exhaled. A 1 down, 2 to go. The next object rose from the platform. A blade made of glass, its edge flickering between existence and nothingness. Vera's voice was grim. The second trial will not be in our minds. The blade hovered in the air, spinning slowly. Its edge shimmered between solid glass and translucent void. A weapon half in this world and half somewhere else. The light being's voice cut through their minds. A trial, too. Endure. The black glass floor dissolved beneath them. They fell, not into darkness, but into a sprawling arena lit by a cold, shifting light. Walls rose and fell like breathing lungs. The ground rippled as if it were liquid stone. And then the wardens appeared. They weren't like the hunters that had chased the Aurora's edge. These were larger, heavier, built for direct combat. Their bodies were plated in black crystal, each plate etched with the same glyphs they had just solved in the first trial. Vera caught the floating blade mid-spin. Its weight felt unnatural, as if gravity didn't apply evenly across its length. Only one weapon. Rourke glanced at the approaching wardens. Then we pass it around. The first warden lunged. Vera sidestepped, slashing across its torso. The blade passed cleanly through, but instead of cutting, it phased part of the creature away, leaving a hollow gap in its form before it sealed shut again. Selena's eyes widened. It's not killing them. It's delaying them. The walls shifted, narrowing the arena. 2 more wardens closed in from the sides. Vera tossed the blade to Rourke. Your turn, Captain. Rourke caught it by instinct, swinging upward into the nearest warden's head. The weapon flickered on impact. For a moment, he saw through the creature into a maze of moving light inside its body. Then it stumbled back, the gap in its head slowly knitting closed. Navarro shouted from behind, "We're not supposed to win this." Vera parried a strike with her forearm guard, sparks showering off. He's right. Trial 2 isn't about victory, it's about lasting long enough. The arena began to contract again, walls sliding in like massive jaws. Selena's voice cut through the chaos. A pattern. The walls are moving in sync with the glyph rhythm from the first trial. If we move with it, we can control the space. They began passing the blade in sequence. Vera to Rourke, Rourke to Navarro, Navarro to Selene, each strike buying precious seconds while the others shifted position with the walls. Minutes blurred into an eternity. Every breath felt heavier, every movement slower, as if the labyrinth itself was testing their endurance. Then, without warning, the wardens froze. The walls stopped moving. The arena dissolved. They were back in the glass chamber, all 4 breathing hard. The blade floated away, dissolving into motes of light. The figure of light spoke again. A trial 2 complete. 1 remains. Rourke wiped the sweat from his brow. And I'm guessing it's the worst one. The final object rose from the platform. Not a weapon, not a puzzle. It was a mirror. The mirror floated before them, not silver, not glass, but a surface of shifting black that swallowed the chamber's light. Rourke stared into it. At first, his reflection was normal. Then the face staring back began to change. Younger, harsher, eyes filled with the same fear he thought he'd buried years ago. Behind the reflection, shadows twisted into shapes he recognized. The wreckage of the Orion's Promise, the ship he'd lost under his command. Selena stepped closer. Her own reflection didn't match her movements. Instead, it lingered, staring at her with a pity she couldn't stand. In its eyes, she saw her younger self, the prodigy who had believed she could save everyone. She looked away. The light being's voice pressed into their minds. Be front your truth or be unmade. Navarro laughed bitterly. Great, a therapy session from hell. Vera moved first. She stepped fully into the mirror's reach, and it swallowed her whole. Vera! Rourke shouted, but before he could move, the mirror shifted again, showing her standing in a war-torn field under twin suns. She faced the ghosts of her own people, those she'd failed to protect. Selena's voice trembled. It's making her relive it. One by one, they were drawn in. Inside the mirror realm, Rourke found himself back on the bridge of the Orion's Promise, alarms blaring, atmosphere venting into space. The crew was screaming for orders. He remembered this moment. He remembered freezing. But this time, he moved. He didn't try to save the ship. He saved the people. In this mirror reality, he gave the order he'd been too afraid to give before. Selena was in the Academy's simulation chambers, facing the moment she'd abandoned a mission to save herself. But now she walked back into the fire, lifting the fallen cadet she had once left behind. Navarro faced the law tribunal on Mars, accused of a crime he didn't commit. And instead of walking away in silence like before, he spoke the truth, knowing it would destroy him. Vera stood on the battlefield again. The dead remained dead. But this time, she didn't turn away. She stood with them, acknowledging her failure, accepting the weight of her survival. The mirror pulsed once, then shattered. They were back in the glass chamber. No wardens, no puzzles, only silence, the light being regarded them for a long moment. Then, in a voice that carried something almost like warmth, it said, "You have faced yourselves, you may pass." A doorway opened in the air, revealing a starfield unlike any they'd ever seen. Not just space, but a path, a lattice of light stretching into infinity. Rourke looked at his crew. Go together. They stepped through. The portal closed behind them, far away, in the depths of the labyrinth, the light being turned and spoke to the shadows beyond the chamber. Are ready. Sure. The shadows shifted, revealing countless other beings, human, alien, machine, waiting for something yet to come. The trials were over. The real journey had just begun.